let's see, trying to keep this all together. Hey fiber friends, welcome to the For Knit's Sakes channel. My name is Allison and I'm coming to you from El Paso, Texas, where I live with my husband Jonathan, my two sons Levi and Oliver, and our fur baby Lucy. If you're new to the podcast, thank you so much for stopping by. You're watching a podcast that talks about knitting, crocheting, sewing, cross stitch, any fiber and fabric related crafts that happen to catch my fancy for the week. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I know it has been quite a while since I've seen you guys last. A little over a month, a day past a month actually, if you want to get specific. So I have lots to show today. I have lots of finished objects, lots of works in progress, lots of stuff has happened, but I will keep my life stuff at the end of the podcast. If you want to find me on social media, I am under For Knit Sakes on Ravelry and Ravelry and Instagram. And if you want to find the group that is associated to the podcast, you can search under the groups tab for Knit Sakes, or you can find the link to the group down in the description box below. It is taking me about 10 times to record between being tongue-tied or getting interrupted by my youngest son, Oliver. Hopefully this is the last time. We have a knit along going on, or a make along with the group right now that's going to July the 1st. It is a stash busting knit along where you can only make things from your stash. Crochet and knitting are allowed, and so are works in progress. So clear your needles, get old projects finished, or pick up new projects, but it just has to be yarn from your stash. Get creative, make some faded garments, knit some hats, some socks. Your finished object just has to be at least 50 grams when it is all said and done. We have about 12 projects so far in the finished object thread, and we have one skein of yarn that was so graciously donated by Carrie from the Creative Obsession, and it is a beautiful sparkly stardust named skein of yarn. I'll put a little picture up here if I remember, and I'll probably sew a bag to go along with it, which I will share in some of the finished objects, the type of bag that I would like to sew for the winner of the finished object thread. When the knit along is over, you have plenty of time to pick something up and finish it before July the 1st. So that gives you what? It's almost April, May, June. So 3 months to do something, and it's fun to see everybody clearing off their needles or trying new techniques in the finished objects thread. So I will try to keep today fairly short. I do have a lot to share since it has been a month, and I will try to keep my life ramblings fairly short at the end of the podcast. So we will jump straight into our 300 questions. I usually ask one of these every single time I podcast because I bought this book to put down some memories for my children, so when they grow up they can see things that I've answered. And these are just fun little questions, and today's question is, what does spring look like in your neighborhood? And then whenever I hear the word neighborhood, I sing the song, "There are the people in your neighborhood" from Sesame Street. And unfortunately for El Paso, spring looks brown. We don't have a lot of trees. We don't have a lot of green. In fact, we have so little grass. We went to our first baseball practice yesterday for the boys, and Levi was like, "Wow, I haven't walked on grass in such a long time," because there are nothing but rocks in front of everybody's house in our neighborhood. That's what pretty much everybody has. Very few people have grass in the front of their yard just because it's so difficult, I guess, to keep up with. You have to water it a lot, and you know, water gets expensive, and we are on water restriction from May through October, I think, or maybe it's March through October. One of the M months. So what does spring look like for you guys? For us, brown, and we've already been using the air conditioning starting last week. Today is a much cooler day. It's only a high of 71, but most of the time last year we were definitely using our air conditioning at this time, so very unfortunate. But you are not here to talk about the weather. You are here to talk about knitting and to see everything that I have been working on, and I have lots to show. So we are going to start with socks. I have 2 pairs of socks that I have finished, and the first one is a pair of vanilla socks that I had done using yarn that was in my stash. This is some Lana Grossa self-patterning yarn that I picked up from a shop in Holmberg that was closing. So this is sock number 1. And I did an afterthought heel, which is, I got like this little tiny stripe here from where the pattern switched over. So I think that's kind of cool. And I did these toe up 60 or 64 stitches on a size 0 needle. All of the information for my projects is on the project page, and these have been done for quite a while, so I don't quite remember. And the second sock I won't put on a sock blocker. Oh no, wait, this I think was the first one. Just kidding, sorry. And I did a contrasting cuff and heel, but I didn't do it on the second sock because I was using this yarn on another finished object and I was worried I was going to run out. So my socks don't match, but that's okay. I'm not picky about my socks matching. So just one has the contrasting heel and cuff and this one doesn't, but nobody really sees that part of my sock anyways, and it's starting to get too warm to wear socks during the day. In fact, I kind of might put these on just because my toes are cold right now, but these are done. You can see where my gauge was different because the patterns look different depending on the part of the sock, especially that orange pattern, because sometimes it looks like these like little mini stripes, and then down here they're more like chevrons. I'm not really quite sure which one it was supposed to look like, but they're done and finished. And I just did I just did the stretchy bind off where you knit 2 and then you knit the 2 together on the other needle. Very Pink Knits has a very good tutorial on that. So I'm actually gonna put these on my toes because my feet are a little chilly. And I have been waiting to wear these because I don't want to show grungy socks on the podcast. So I usually put them on and try them on, and then I put them in my bag to show you guys. There we go. Now my second pair of socks was a test knit for Barbara on Knitting I Love. Very sweet Polish girl living in Ireland. And she came out with a pattern called the Love Song Socks, a very simple textured sock that mainly all knitting, and then this purl purl pattern just kind of travels diagonally up the sock, and they're opposites. So one travels towards the left and one travels towards the right. I made these shorties because it was starting to get warm, and short socks are my sock of choice when it comes to summertime. I'll usually wear them around the house. And this is some ice yarns that Amy from New Zealand sent me. Thank you so much, Amy. And this one also has an afterthought heel where you mark on the bottom of the sock where your heel goes and you cut into your yarn, which is my heel of choice these days because I like to just be able to knit a tube and then do the heel later. The heel seems to fit me better. I like that I can knit around and around to do my decreases just like you do for a toe if you're doing cuff down. And then, what was my other reason for afterthought heels? I can't think of it. I'm sure I'll think of it in just a few seconds or minutes or 3 o'clock this afternoon. Who else does that? You forget a word and then you remember hours later about what you're doing. So show them on the sock blockers. Little back. It's a little difficult to see the pattern on one of the socks, and I think it's just because of where the pearls go, which I found very interesting as I was knitting. But her pattern is free until the end of the month of March, so you have a few days left to snag the pattern for free, and she has a good video on how to do your afterthought heels. That is a lot shorter than the Kirby Werby tutorial, and I think they turned out really good. My husband wanted to steal them from me because they are pink and gray, which Lolo Did It just came out with a Negan inspired colorway. If you are a Walking Dead aficionado or just even a watcher, honestly, I think they need to end the show. It's been going on a little bit too long. And the season is particularly slow, but she came out with a Negan inspired colorway that's very, very similar to, like, it's red, which is kind of like a pinky red, and the gray from his leather jacket. So I think it's supposed to be his leather jacket and blood, which it's a really cool colorway. It's Baby You Look Beautiful, I think it is. It's from a line that he says in the show. but I kind of want to get it, but I don't need it, right? What do you do? Okay, so these are the love song socks, and again, if you want to see the project notes, you can just head on over to my project page, and I'm always looking for new friends on Ravelry if you would like to friend me on Ravelry as well. Love Song Socks by Barbara. I love her name too. Whew. So those are the socks that I've gotten done since I've seen you guys last. I have also finished my 3-color cowl by Joji Locatelli. And I know when I was chatting last time, I was trying to figure out what color to do the big textured section that's in close to the end. And I decided to go for pink. Or I think it was Dogwood Heather. So this is the 3-color cowl by Joji Locatelli. A fairly simple, easy knit. You do some striping, you do some eyelets, you have a little textured section here, a little bit of lace, and then you end up with a couple stripes, and then you're done. I like really long cowls because you can bunch them up and wear them. So this has been perfect to wear to the bus stop. You guessed it, because that's where I usually wear all of my knits because it's cold in the morning, and then it warms up. I just like it because you get like a little bit of color. You don't get to see that full textured section because it kind of bunches up, but it's really nice and comfy. You can make it into like a babushka if you want to. You don't have to, but it works out really nice for that. And I might knit another one of these with just 3 colors. I'm not quite sure, but this is just, this is Knit Picks, one of the Heathers, maybe Wonderland Heather. This is some Araucania single ply yarn that I had in my stash. My husband bought it for me last year. This is Piraten Vola. I don't remember the number. It's probably on the project page, but I've used this yarn for a sweater for my niece. And then I used it for the heel and cuff on that sock. I've also used it in my 2nd Avenue wrap. I showed that, I think, summer of last year. So I've used this yarn a lot, and I've just gotten down to like the very last bit that's going to go in my blanket. And then this is Knit Picks right here. Nice and fun, easy to knit. I think I'm going to wear it for the rest of the podcast because I'm a little chilly. Okay, and then another one I don't have with me. It is a rainbow sockhead hat. It didn't really quite turn into a sockhead hat, more like a beanie, or depending on where you are in the nation, a toboggan. It's a very tight-fitting hat I made for my son. I had used this yarn to make some socks for him last year, and I had enough left over that I can make a kid's hat. So I will pop in a picture because he wore it to school today, and he's been wearing it to school every day. And I love that my kid loves rainbows and doesn't care what anybody else thinks. So I'll pop in a little picture, and then I think my last finished object is my Morning Mist tee. Now, when I hold this up, it is going to look very big, and it is very drapey because of the yarn that I used. The lace panel in the back is alpaca silk and nylon. It's Elspeth Levold silky wool. So the lace panel is very, very drapey, and it stretched out a little farther than I had expected it to. The lace panel was only supposed to be 22 inches side to side, and it ended up 24. So then you can imagine that my neckline was a mess when I cast on the front to knit this part. This is Patton's Silk Bamboo, which is also very drapey. It also shows wrinkles, so I'm not quite sure the best way to store it, because if I fold it in half, then you see the fold line down the middle. But if I hang it, then it's too heavy, and then it's just gonna grow even more. So this finished object ended up a lot bigger than I anticipated, but I don't hate it. It is very swingy at the bottom. If I remember, I'll try to do like a little video, and like I'll just do like a little 360 so you can see what I'm talking about. So this looks very big, I'm not gonna lie. And I had to use a whole bunch of different needle sizes. The pattern calls for a 5 and maybe a 4. This is the Morning Mist pattern, if I didn't mention that. And then a different size for the edging. But I used a 5 for the lace, and then I know that my back and forth knitting is looser than my in the round knitting, so I started with the top with a 4, and then I decided to keep it as a 4 for the rest of the body of the garment. And because my neckline originally was falling off my shoulders when I started to do it, I stopped doing the body and I decided to do the neck. And I did this in a 2. And I did a couple extra rows, and I also did it in a different color. The edging on the neckline and the sleeves are supposed to be in the body color, but I didn't want all of this gold so close to my face. I wanted to break it up a little bit. So I did the purple instead, and I really liked how it worked, and I actually really liked the extra length in the panel gave me slightly longer sleeves. So they're not quite as short as they are in the model. Again, if I get to take a little 360, then you'll see what I'm talking about. And the bottom is very swishy. There is no waist shaping, you're just supposed to knit straight down, but somehow the bottom ended up a little bit more flared out. You can kind of see it in the Instagram photo I posted on the day that I wore it last week. It's very swishy. But it's not too warm, which I'm really excited about. I was a little worried that the silk bamboo would be a little bit warm, but I think I could possibly wear it on some of the cooler summer days this summer, which for El Paso is like 95 as opposed to 115. To be a knitter in the desert isn't my cup of tea. It's unfortunate. So it was a very fun pattern. The lace took me 3 tries to get it right. You can see you start in the middle and then you knit half of it, then you pick up the stitches from your provisional cast on and knit the other half. So, but it's done and I love it. Now I could probably wear it later this week, but today it's a little warm, or no, a little cold, 71 degrees, maybe, I don't know. I find it funny that I posted and I was gonna wear it on an 89-degree day, and I had 2 people comment. They're like, yeah, that's for like mid-60s. And I replied, it was fine in the shade, but when I was standing in the sun, different story. And in El Paso, there's nowhere to hide from the sun because we don't have trees. If we do have trees, they're palm trees, and they're very sparse, which is very unfortunate. So, but whoops, it's done. And it's nice, it's beautiful. I have like 2 skeins left, or 2 balls left of this, which is what, like 130 grams. I don't know what to do with it because silk bamboo is super drapey, so hats aren't going to hold their shape, and I'm not really quite sure what to do with it. Maybe I can buy a different color and like make a cowl and give it away because I can only own so many cowls. I'm getting to the point I don't know what to do with all of my knitting because I'm not wearing everything. But I don't want to just give it all away. Not everybody's knit worthy, right? What do you do? Okay, so the next finished objects are going to be sewing, and I don't have them all with me because I sent 1 bag to a friend. Hopefully she will get it today or tomorrow. But I made some bags for myself, as well as when my kids see me making bags, they want me to make them bags. So this is one that I actually made with my son Levi. I was teaching him how to sew. He would just kind of press the button, help do the back stitching, pin things, mark things, but he made a little drawstring bag with a boxed bottom. Don't mind, I only have ribbon and I wasn't gonna go through the whole mess of making a pull string using fabric. I don't have the patience to try to teach him that. And then just the inside is this polka dot navy fabric. He used it for maybe a day and then I haven't seen him use it since, but it's actually a really good size bag to put socks in. I need to buy a smaller ribbon to use for it, but this is the closest ribbon I had that kind of matched it. It's brown and green stars on it, so it's a perfect little size bag for socks 2 at a time, so then you can fit your 100-gram ball in there, and then plenty of space for your work in progress and your needles. So little drawstring bag that Levi helped me make. And then I made 2 of these bags, and this is the larger of the 2. The other one I sent to Carrie. So spoiler alert, Carrie, if you haven't gotten your package yet, I sent you the small version of this one. So I had seen these bags on Instagram and I wanted to make some of my own. I have plenty of fabric. I didn't need to buy a new one. So I'm not quite sure what kind of style bags you would call these, but it's just a seamless handle and then the bag down here. I put a pocket in here on the inside. Sorry, I have a work in progress in here. Just to kind of hold some things, but I like these style bags because you can hold them on your wrist and you can knit. There's no zipper in the way. I don't have to worry about my yarn snagging on anything, and it fits so well on my arm. And this one has a sock project that has 2 balls of yarn in it right now, but it could definitely hold a larger project if I wanted to. I didn't line it, I just tried to use a stiff fabric to help it stand, and it works pretty well. And with these bags, you can take the handle and fold it under, but it kind of makes it look like a pair of underpants. My kids laughed really hard when I pointed that out, but it's true, it makes it look like a pair of underpants. And you can make it look like a yarn bowl, right? Underpants. I'm not alone in that one. So then I can set it on a table and I don't have the handle in my way if I'm not using it on my arm. Genius, right? So I think I'm gonna make one of these bags, maybe the smaller sized one, for the knit along prize to go along with Carrie's skein of yarn. So Carrie, if you're watching and you haven't gotten it, I hope you enjoy the bag that I sent. If you choose to give it away to a viewer or keep it for yourself, doesn't bother me. Whew, those are all of the finished objects. Let's get into works in progress. I will try to keep it short. I have lots of socks on the needles, so I'm just going to breeze through those. If you want to find all the specifics on the needle sizes and the stitch counts, just go to the project page. I'm not gonna talk all about that. So my first one I'm going to talk about, these were supposed to be my March pattern socks or textured socks, but then I decided that my test knit socks were gonna be my March and these are gonna be my April ones. And these are just the broken seed stitch socks. I don't know if I showed these last time or not, but I had gotten to the heel. I did a garter stitch short row heel. You can do that with Fish Lips Kiss heel as well. You just knit back and forth instead of purling on the wrong side. And then what I am going to do with these is I'm gradually tapering the broken seed stitch pattern until I don't do it anymore. So I just take off a little bit on each side. I made a little chart so I don't mess it up. And the 2 yarns I am using are Knit Picks Felici. I don't remember the colorway, but it's yellow, gray, white. I wanted to pair it with something because of all the light colors, socks get dirty. So if I paired it with a dark one, you're not gonna notice if it gets dirty as quickly. And this is my leftover Madeline Tosh from my Wishmaker mitts. Now I know that these are 2 different bases and this doesn't have any nylon in it. So I am a little worried that the heel and the toe are going to get holes a lot sooner, but I'll be able to test my darning skills. And I don't wear my socks out of the house except for in some sandals to walk to the bus stop. I don't wear them in shoes. I don't rough up my socks a whole lot. So hopefully they'll still last a decent amount of time. And I know you're not supposed to mix bases, but you know, live dangerously every once in a while. That's sock whip number 1. Sock whip number 2 is for my son Levi. I told him to pick out some yarn, or I asked him if he wanted some socks, and he said yes, and he picked out, which is again why I love my son, he gives 0 ducks. He picked out another ice yarn that Amy had sent me. This is just a purple, black, burgundy, lavender colorway. And I asked him if he wanted to pick a contrasting color for the toes. He only wants tube socks, so I don't have to worry about the heels. But I wanted to use all of this plus a little bit extra for the toes, and he picked out some leftover green. This is just some Regia yarn that I had in my stash. I had already knit a pair of socks 2 summers ago for Tour de Sock using this. And so he picked that out to do his toes. I'm not very far. I just did the second sock yesterday and put them on the same cord. So these will be done 2 at a time. I'll probably work on these at baseball practice for the boys since they have like hour-and-a-half long baseball practices once a week. Thankfully, they're at the same time. And then they have games starting at the end of the month. And that's being held in my little skein in the big wool. Yes, bag. This one's always in rotation, always has a pair of socks usually in it. The next sock whip is for appointments and tossing in my bag as I go. And it is a sport weight sock with some leftover Lana Grossa yarn. I've already made a pair of socks from this. I have 50 grams, 55 maybe. So I'm going to knit until, and then I'm going to do a contrasting heel. I have this Knit Picks Galileo. It is not the same base. I think there's some nylon and some silk maybe, or maybe it's just silk and wool. I don't know. I had knit a dress for my other niece out of this, and so it's a purple that coordinates fairly well with the skein, kind of like that purple right there. It doesn't, I'm not super picky about it matchy. If it's close enough, then I go for it. I'm always team close enough when it comes to colors, but I only have a toe. Not impressive. US size 2. I think I'm doing 48 stitches. So we'll see how long they get. Since it's only 50 grams in sport weight, I'm probably only going to get shorty socks. And I might have to do a contrasting cuff as well. But I have another ball, 50-gram ball of the Galileo sitting in my stash. I don't have a lot of sport weight in my stash, except for some skeins that Carrie sent me a couple months ago, which I need to, ooh, maybe one of those would match. Sorry, stream of consciousness. This is a podcast, not a stream of consciousness. So those are all the sock work in progress. Let me check my socks, check. The next one is a garment that I cast on. I've had these 2 lace weight balls of yarn in my stash since last summer, and I didn't know what to do with them. I got them from a D-stash on Facebook, but I thought that they were fingering weight, and when I got them, they were definitely lace weight. I don't knit with lace weight very often, so my solution is to hold it double to make it fingering weight, and there is 900 meters, so I have just enough to make a short sleeve garment. So I decided to cast on the Walk Along Tee by Anka Strick. It's I think she's a German designer, but I've gotten actually pretty far. I have a mess of yarn, but I really like how the 2 lace weight yarns are knitting up together to make this really cool variegated, trying to catch the light. It's just really pretty. I can't wait to see when it's all said and done, but I really like the construction. There are some short rows. So my first time doing German short rows, so easy. I don't know why I didn't learn how to do those before. I've been wrapping and turning for the last 2-3 years. Not anymore. And it's really cool how it's set up. There are these big raglan panels on the front and the back, and you're increasing for your sleeve and the front and the back, but the raglans, these big thick raglans, stay the same. So I really think that construction's kind of cool. If I like this, I'm going to definitely knit another with some of my single skeins and either do a fade or striping. So there are a lot of stitch markers to keep track of. There are 8 total. So I'm going to warn you about that. It took a lot of brain power for the short rows because she used like knit to marker 1, increase, knit 3 pass, turn, and like purl to marker 8. And so you have to remember like which ones are which. So I've been trying to keep them situated by doing the raglans using this stitch marker here, and then using my Edison bulb stitch markers for the sleeves, which has made it a lot easier to keep it straight in my brain. I don't have brain power by the end of the day with kids and stuff. So let me try to show this a little better. I did go up a half needle size. I'm on a US 3, but the gauge is kind of wonky on this, in my opinion, because she's using a US 2.5 and the gauge is 24 stitches for 4 inches, which is the same as the flax sweater, and that uses a US 5. So I'm using a 3, and because the 2 lace weights is a little bit larger than a fingering but not quite a sport weight, I'm gonna stick with the 3, and I've just been kind of looking at the gauge as I go, and it's a little bit tight compared to like my flax, but my flax is a little bit looser, and I'm okay with this fitting a little bit tighter. So I'm just gonna try it on as I go and hope for the best. Because I didn't do a gauge swatch, because I can't imagine doing a gauge swatch with lace in the round. Well, 2 strands of lace in the round, so I was like, we'll just chance it and see how it goes. I also didn't do the rolled collar. You're supposed to do a stockinette piece in like a contrasting color at the top, and then you do the ribbing, but I didn't like the way it looked. The rolled collar is just, it wasn't my thing, so I decided to not do it. So this is the walk along tee. Hopefully I will have a decent amount more finished. I'm trying to get it to the point that I separate for the sleeves and I just have to knit in the round. But it's fun. And this is just being held in a 31 bag. I own way too many of these from friends that have sold in the past, but I really like the owls just because they're fun. And it's the perfect size to hold a garment before it gets too big. Okay. One more work in progress. Now this is something that my mother-in-law asked me to make, and I'm not super excited about it, but she is totally knit worthy because she super appreciates everything that I knit. So I decided to start the checkerboard throw, which is a free pattern that I got via Knit Picks. I don't know if it is free anymore. It originally has you knit with like Knit Picks Big O, I think, which is supposed to be a bulky, but I think it's not quite a bulky. So I had to base how many stitches I was going to cast on based on the yarn that my mother-in-law chose. And she chose this Lion brand Heartland Thick and Quick. So this is like chunky. It's supposed to use a US size 11, and it's a super bulky. It is an acrylic yarn, I believe, as I stare at it. Yes, 100% acrylic, but it's very soft. In this army green color, we do not have the same color aesthetics, just FYI. So I have cast this blanket on 3 times. The original pattern has you cast on 164 stitches, but I know in a bulky yarn it would have been way too big. So what I did is I started with a swatch, and I knit I ended up doing some math, and 136 stitches I thought was going to be enough to make it a throw size, but not too big, so I wouldn't run out of yarn, because I only had 12 skeins before I ran out. But 136 is significantly larger than a throw. This is on a 50-inch cord, so there's no needles on this, and they're kind of bunched up on it. So this would have been just way too big. But I kept it on there to show you guys how big it is. And the needles are so big I had to pull out hair ties to use as my, so I could keep track of the pattern repeat. You can, real quick, show what that looks like. So then I cast it on again using 122 stitches. So I took out 1 pattern repeat of 14. Still too big. Finally, I decide on this. So this is much smaller. This is a 47-inch cord, and it's kind of bunched up. So it's gonna end up being probably like a 50-inch-ish blanket, which is perfect for a throw, because the original finished width is like 43.5 inches. So this is still gonna end up being bigger than the pattern. But I ended up doing 6 pattern repeats, and I increased the garter stitch border to 9 stitches on each side. A lot of math, and I've only gotten this far. I'm not super motivated to make this, just because I'm knitting them on my Knit Picks needles, which I don't mind. I would use my ChowGoo, because I do have 11-inch tips, US 11 tips, but they clink. Like, I like the sound of the stainless steel, but the 11s are kind of like a hollow sound to them, and it bothers my senses, my auditory senses, so I can't do it. So they're planning on visiting again sometime this summer, so I have until the summer to make it. And I did the math, and I was like, well, if I do 2 rows a day and I do 12 repeats, it'll take me 60 days to make it. but it's hard to even just get the 2 rows done. So I'll get what I can done. I'm not motivated to knit blankets like this. They take a really long time and a lot of stamina. It's like a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So, whew, that is my last work in progress, I believe. Yes. Whew, I got all that done in 35 minutes. Whew. Okay, it was snack time. And while I was getting the little one a snack, I realized I had squared off my, whoopsies, my Cozy Memories blanket. So I can show you the couple of squares that I have gotten done on this. It is now a 14 by 6 square blanket. So it is just big enough to be a lap blanket, and I finished off these last couple squares on this side. So this was in a wrap, my Second Avenue wrap, some socks for my nieces. This is the Knit Picks chroma that I used to make Levi a hat and some socks. And these were my approach socks that I test knit for Jenny from the Lone Larch Designs. Jentastic. Does she go by Jenny? I don't know. She hasn't podcasted in a while. Where is she? So now it is just the perfect size for a lap blanket. So now I mathed it out, and I need to do about 9 more rows to get it. If I want it square, then I need to do 8 more rows of 14. So that's quite a while to go. But this can lead into stash additions, but it's not really an acquisition because I already owned all this yarn. So I'm gonna put this on my lap to keep my lap warm. But if you follow me on Instagram, I had made some magic cakes to send to Carrie from the Creative Obsession because she was so nice to send me some sport weight skeins of hawthorn yarn to make some socks with, as well as a skein for the knit along. And so I made her 2 magic cakes equaling about 200 grams, and I sent those out to her. If you want to see the picture, if I still have it on the computer, I'll add it in here. But then I decided to go and make myself my magic cakes because as I'm finishing the squares on my Cozy Memories blanket, I am still left over with yarn because you have yarn left over from socks, and the squares only take about 5 to 6 grams. So I have made myself 2 magic cakes, and I plan to do a corner to corner crochet blanket. This is about 200 grams here, and I started another magic cake, so this is only about 55. So I'm going to keep wrapping around the outside as I finish projects or finish squares. And then when I get to 100 grams, I'm gonna have to rewind it because I pull from the outside of my cakes instead of the inside. So this is gonna be the first color of my blanket right here. But I don't know how many I'm going to make before I start my blanket. Because I mean, 200, probably about 600 would make a decent sized blanket. I only need 350 more. And I have lots of leftovers. Like, I have all of these in here. And a lot of those are much more than just a 5 gram mini. So if anybody's also ever into looking into trading minis, I'm your girl. I have plenty to trade with. So that was an acquisition just to add to my stash. So I actually just got off my butt and wound all that up. And then I've been wanting to make this Zweig pullover for forever, and I have had this skein that Carrie I got for Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted. This is a one-of-a-kind skein that I picked out from her shop that she sent me. Love it so much. I have a thing for purple. I claim all purples. I mean, it's everywhere in my life. It's my favorite color. So I've been trying to find the yarn to go with this, and I don't know what prompted me to finally purchase it, but maybe Knit Picks was having a sale, or I just said that I really wanted to make it. So I went onto Knit Picks website, and I was trying to choose between 2 different shades of hawthorn because I really wanted hawthorn to go with this because the twist is very similar, the feel is very similar, and I was trying to pick between 2 purples, of course, to go with this. And I ended up choosing the colorway Goddess. Perfect name, right? And I just got it all yesterday, so perfect timing as well. It's gonna be so pretty. So if you haven't seen the Zweig by Caitlin Hunter, it is a lace yoke with some color work on the top and the bottom of the lace. And then, you know, main body color. I think what I'm going to do is, if I have enough of this, I'm going to do brioche on the cuffs of the sleeve, probably not on the bottom. And we'll have to see how much yarn I have left. I kind of ordered like the exact amount that I needed, because I've noticed whenever I make garments, I always have so much left over. So I don't know if the math is wrong or what, but I'm always left with like at least 100 grams left over. I don't think this might be the case because the pattern has the body fairly short when I like a longer body to at least hit my hips. I'm not a cropped wearer or anything like that, but oh man, look at this. Like, oh, she's gonna be so pretty. It's a little bit bright right now, but I'm going to cast it on April 14th. The Woolberry Fiber Company is having a knit along for the Zweig, and works in progress aren't allowed. So I am casting this on April 14th. I have to cake it up. I'm hoping I'll have most of my walk along tee done by then, because I don't really like having more than one garment on the needles. But we'll just see how much I get. I'm trying to, like I said, get to the point where I separate for the sleeves, and then I'm just knitting in the round until you increase for the hips. Now, when I ordered that Hawthorne, which was on sale, I also ordered enough to get free shipping. And I've been wanting to try the Stroll Gradients, and again, purple. I ordered this one. I'm fairly certain I'm going to make the Arctic shawl. I test knit this shawl for Lily from Nordic Stitches last summer, but I gifted it to my mother-in-law, but I really want one for myself. So I think I'm going to knit it out of this. I need to check the yardage though, so I might have to get creative with using some other colors to break up the gradient, or to have a large border on the bottom, but I don't know what color I would do, because this isn't quite a dark purple, but I don't know. I'll figure it out. I have time before I would cast that one on. And then I'm a sucker for Stroll in the solids, just because they work well for heels and toes and cuffs on socks. But I'm also thinking, earlier in the episode I said if I like the walk along tee, I'm going to make another one, either using a fade or a stripe, because I can do it in 2 skeins of high yardage fingering weight. Because, you know, some fingering weight skeins, like I think the Stroll one is 458 yards. So in the walk along tee, I think it's only 900 something. And I've had this skein of Paraton Vola, so it has like the pinks and the yellows and a little bit of speckling of the black. And then I got this Evil Little Goat yarn in the mystery sale she had in December. So the yellows go with each other. So I would put this one on the top and this one on the bottom, and then doing contrasting edging with this one right here. Life's too short for boring knitwear, people. If you're shaking your head at me, you don't have to wear it. I'm wearing it. And I think it would be really cool. Or I was thinking of doing another flax light without the garter stitch panel on the sleeve and the shoulder, in these colors with this. But I might be risking a little bit close as far as yardage. These would of course be short sleeves, because I of course do not have enough to do long sleeves, and I'm just trying to use up the single skeins from my stash. And I always wear whatever I want, to be honest. I don't care. Well, I care somewhat, but when it comes to colors, I don't care very much. But I think that these would be really pretty together. And this was something I couldn't knit socks out of because it's 100% superwash merino. But this one's 438 yards, and I think the Paraton Vola is like a 430 to 450 yards per ball. I was going to use this for socks, but then I didn't. But I mean, I can see it. I'll probably knit a little swatch and see how I like it, but that would be really fun. So that was all I have for acquisitions, along with the yarn that my mother-in-law got for her blanket, but she paid for it because I don't have the money to buy 12. Well, I do, but I don't want to buy Lion Brand she's very sweet in the fact that she will pay for supplies without any questions. So, whew, that was a lot of chatting. I tried to keep it short, but that is all the knitting, fabric, cross-stitch content for today. So if you were just here for the crafty part of the podcast, then I am done and you can be on about your way. And hopefully I will see you guys next time. If you want to hear a little bit about our life, I know it's been a month, but I'll try to condense it as short as I can to what we've been doing. You can hang around and chat with me for a little bit longer. Whew. So bye to all the people that are moving on, and see you guys later. Love you. Whew. If you're sticking around and want to hear about our life, we had spring break. Texas does their spring break or they chose to do their spring break in the middle of March. My mother-in-law came to visit, and we were busy going to the zoo, and we went to the big trip we did is we went to the White Sands National Monument, which is only about an hour north of here. And they have these really cool, like, white sand dunes in the middle of the desert. So they're not brown like you would think of in the desert. And we went sledding. You can buy these sleds from the Walmart that's right outside Alamogordo. And you wax up the bottom just like you would do a surfboard, and you slide down the sand dunes. I'll put a little picture or a little video of me sliding down. I might put my kids in there. I don't know. I'm always on the fence about putting my kids on social media just because they're not old enough to really consent to it. So I don't know. Sometimes they do it and sometimes they don't. But that was a really fun trip. And the other thing that's been taking up a lot of my life right now is potty training my 4-year-old. Because of his previous surgery and medical issues, it's been a little bit of a fight for accidents. So I've been watching him like a hawk and being a helicopter parent, and that is just emotionally exhausting to do every single day to make sure that, like, he goes to the bathroom when he needs to and all this other stuff. So we've been busy dealing with that, and I've been probably overthinking it a lot. And then I've been having issues with my right foot, and I have to get that looked into because, you know, your feet are important. They take you places. You have to be able to walk on them. And if you have pain, then that makes it highly difficult. We walk to the bus stop every single day, so that's at least twice a day I'm walking a quarter of a mile. So I walk like half a mile a day. I need to walk more. I need to be more active. But it's very difficult when you have like pain shooting through your foot every single time you walk on it. So I'm getting that done, but you know, per normal medical anything, it's gonna take until the end of April before I can be seen by podiatry. So in the meantime, I just take pain meds and I try to take it easy. I wear proper footwear, etc. Other than that, John applied for some jobs at the School of Music in Norfolk, Virginia. We're waiting on that because not a lot of people have applied, so they keep extending the deadline. First deadline was like end of February, and John turned his stuff in. Then they moved it to middle of March. Then they moved it to the middle of April. So we get to wait. Hurry up and wait is kind of the motto for the military. So it's a little frustrating just not knowing, but we're settled, everything's good, everybody's healthy, I'll take it, right? And then other than that, it's just day-to-day life. We're cooking, we're eating. The boys started baseball yesterday. It's their first like big sport that they've ever played because when we were over in Germany, we didn't really get involved. We really kind of only had stuff that was available on post. We didn't know the language well enough to enroll them in soccer like in the local village that we lived in. So this is like their first big sport, and they really liked it yesterday. It is kind of late in the day for them. I don't know about everybody else out there, but our kids go to bed at like 7:30, and we were still on the field at 8 o'clock last night, so then they had to come home and shower, and like they didn't go to bed till 9. So hopefully Levi's not too tired for school today. I stayed up and I started watching the second season of Sneaky Pete on Amazon. If you haven't watched that show, I would highly suggest it. I think it's a really funny show. It keeps my interest. Other shows that I've been trying to catch up on is Will and Grace. And I started watching Rise, which I feel like is just kind of the revival of Glee. So I've only watched the first 2 episodes. I'm not particularly impressed by it so far, just because the main actor is Ted from How I Met Your Mother, and he was in such a like goofy, silly role in there. It's kind of hard to see him in a more serious role. But I'll keep watching it and probably make it through the first season before I make a decision. And then keeping up on all the podcasts, Legacy Fiber Arts, Barbara from Knitting I Love. I need to start watching Lolo Did It. I didn't realize she had a podcast for a while. What else am I watching? Wool Needles Hands every once in a while. I don't quite keep up on Taylor as much, but she did have her baby, so congratulations if she's watching my little channel. Wool Jewel, Caitlin, of course, I always watch her just because I'm always super jealous that she still lives in Germany and I miss it every single day. But, whew, other than that, I live a very boring life. So, those of you that keep coming back, thank you so much. I don't have much else to say this week, so I think I'll just kind of wrap it up. I'm hoping I stuck under an hour to chat with you guys, and I hope I didn't miss anything. I always turn off the camera, and as I'm editing, I'm like, oh, I should have said this, or I should have talked about this. But that's okay. You can't fit everything into an episode every single time. So hopefully it won't be a month before I see you guys next time, and I'll have hopefully a little tea to show you in the beginning of my Zweig. Well, maybe not. If I record before 2 weeks, I can't start my Zweig yet, but maybe everything will be all caked up and I'll put it like right here so you can look at all the pretty yarn. Oh, but funny story on cake. I asked if the boys wanted to help me pick out colors to make a magic cake. And they're like, oh, I want cake. Can we have chocolate? I was like, not quite the cake I was talking about, but Levi's birthday's coming up in 2 weeks. He's going to be 7. Where did the time go? He was just born yesterday. He's not 7. So I have to make his cake. His birthday's on Friday the 13th, which the funny thing is it's also John and I's engagement anniversary, and that will be 11 years. Like the little things. And we got engaged on Friday the 13th too, which is odd. I mean, we're not superstitious, so it doesn't bother us. Didn't even think about it. Like, there's Friday the 13th, whatever. But, okay. Now I'm rambling on, so I'm really going to cut it short this time. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. Join the Ravelry group, get your knit along stuff done, and I hope to see you guys soon, and I hope you guys have a great week, a great month. Enjoy your Easter, April Fool's Day, same day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Love you, bye.